Mama, I got bad news, bad news. I've been rolling with some bad dudes, bad dudes. I've been trying to get a bag too,
Hello, listeners. Welcome to the Ashes to Awesome podcast, Rising in Recovery. Our podcast provides light, hope, and understanding about addiction and mental health to those living within that life and the people who love them. This episode is brought to you by Together We Can, where Canada recovers from addiction. That's twcrecoverylife.org. Hello, listeners. Welcome to another episode of the Ashes to Awesome podcast. I'm your host, Chuck LaFLange, and today I'm sitting in studio with Atika J. Did I say that right, dear?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And she is from the Vancouver Lower East Side, and she's here to talk about harm reduction. So welcome to the show, Atika. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you so much. Nice to meet you, and thank you so much for having me. Harm reduction has been a very crucial part in my life, I think. So I've never been addicted or interested in trying any sorts of drugs, but I know a lot of people who use, and I know I've lost friends due to overdoses, and I see them basically maintaining their sobriety for a long time due to harm reduction. So
Okay.
I do harm reduction about 3-4 days a week, and then my nonprofit organization also focuses on that. So it's just a
That's
lot
your life,
of harm
right?
reduction in my life.
Yeah,
Yes,
no
it's like
kidding,
a harm
no kidding.
reduction life. I mean, my dog Gaston likes to bite like the whole party pack. So
Yeah,
he loves just he loves giving people like clean alcohol swabs and things like that.
that's
Oh
great.
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, he just assumed that you're a user. That's and yeah, so you bring like a party pack and like with the rubber and everything. And
Yeah.
if someone just like, okay, I'm not gonna take that, my dog will just literally bite the rubber off so that it kind of like lay out there, like the whole saline and like,
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah.
Puts it
So
on display for them, eh? Yeah.
yeah, put it on
Um,
display. Oh, do you have trouble opening it? Let me open it for you. So he
okay,
carries around
okay.
the Narcan box too, like the Narcan kit as well. He
Yeah,
loves that.
yeah.
He loves bringing in things like that to people.
Wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow. Helpful little
I
guy.
never asked him to do that. He's just sort of just doing it, I
Following
can.
mom, right? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
about harm reduction, I think when people hear harm reduction, there's a couple things that they think about. You know, we talked about before we started recording. Typically, clean needles, um, supervised injection sites. Is that what we're calling them, right? No? Yep. Yeah. Supervised injection sites. Uh,
Safe
s-
injection sites or safe consumption sites or
yes.
inhalation tent.
Yes. Yeah. What are a couple of the other kind of buzzwords that around harm reduction? Of course, safe supply. Is that what we're calling it? Safe supply or clean supply?
Yeah, safe supply.
Safe
Yeah.
supply. Okay, sorry. And words matter, so
Well,
that's why I'm asking to make sure here, right?
yeah,
Honey? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Release.
But there's more. There's so much more to it than that. For me, what harm reduction is basically it's a way to stay connected, and that's the way I look at it. At what harm reduction is, and where the real win is. You know, if addiction is lack of connection, then being able to stay connected to these people until such time as they're able to make some better choices, perhaps. But that's for me personally how I view it. What is harm reduction? What are the different levels or facets of it? I'm not sure. What's the terminology I'm looking for here, Atika?
Yeah, so I think harm reduction, the way I see it, it's not really enabling. That's what I see a lot of people think about harm reduction. Oh, are you enabling drug users? Oh, you think drug is okay? And no one say drug is great. Like no one I see likes fentanyl or xylazine, but it's more so about meeting people where they're at and sort of um, prevent them from dying due to the drugs that they're using. So
Okay. Yeah.
actually, the lady that I see today, she was very scared after, being abused very badly, just fresh out of that. She was so afraid of being and so distraught and very disturbed. And she was so afraid that when I talk about the safe supply, I will make her being forced into a treatment in a hospital, and she was crying. She was just so scared. And I said, hey, no, it's not like that. Like, what do you need? Socks? Harm
Yeah.
reduction can just be, distributing socks. Doesn't have to be needles, but like blankets, for instance.
Okay.
Socks is a really big thing.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Only having been homeless, like really homeless for about 2 weeks at the end of my active addiction,
yeah.
already socks became a pretty major damn thing. So I can't imagine extended periods of time out there. I mean,
Oh yeah. Socks, and then wound care, wound kit, things like that is actually also harm reduction.
of course.
So even education, and that's how I see it too. It's basically the way I see it is it's better to make incremental change rather than drastically going like an on-off switch. I kind of see it like this when I try to explain it. Like, okay, you eat junk food. Junk food is bad, 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 bad. And you cannot just turn the switch off and then eat salad right away for the rest of your life. You're not going to stay like that,
No,
okay?
no.
Even though it's great if you eat salad every single day, that's awesome. But you won't be able to do that. You're probably going to relapse. Most likely, you're going to relapse. And when there's a relapse, then you kind of have to have a safety net. And that's basically harm reduction. And harm
Okay.
reduction is more so, let's say I really like fries. I love fries. And harm reduction approach to that. And I think harm reduction principle really apply in many, many ways. Let's say, okay, I really love fries, and harm reduction would be, okay, well, I can eat fries, but I need to cook it from the air fryer, so way less fat. And then the next thing will be, okay, well, I can eat fries, but maybe put a little bit of lettuce in, just anything that is just really, really tiny incremental change.
Okay.
And I've never seen anyone who is not willing to be sober. They're willing to be sober. They just have relapses. And
Yeah.
harm reduction, I think I'm so honored to be there when harm reduction is literally the last train, the last line between them and death. And my role is basically kind of being in that middle with other peers. It's
Okay.
basically in that middle and being that line between someone's life and death. And
Wow.
I it's like after reversing overdoses, what I see from people when they open their eyes, it's like I see a birth. It's like this person is rebirthing.
Yeah.
I'm actually almost always so happy, and I never cry, but I cried inside, and it's just like, hey, welcome back. There's just another hope for you to be one day sober, and there's a hope for that. And thanks to harm reduction, you're here. We get to see you actually come alive.
No
So
kidding. Yeah, quite literally though, right? I mean, yeah, when it comes
no,
to
it is,
Narcan,
yeah,
and yeah,
yeah,
yeah, right.
yeah.
So
So
that must
I
be a pretty
got people
fantastic feeling
talking and
to.
stuff like that.
I've been there, nowhere near to the extent that you have. It's a handful of times that I've Narcan somebody and brought them back. Here's what I'm going to ask you what you just said. All too often, within 5 minutes, they need a hoot, right? Somebody that you've Narcan, can I have a hoot? Can I have a hoot? No, you can't. But do you run into that, and does that frustrate you the same way that it frustrated me back then, or have you come to terms with that's just kind of how things are? I'm
I would
assuming
say,
you've heard it. So how does it make you feel?
oh, it's actually crazier than that. It's more so that I remember just tending to this overdose of this gentleman at the side of the street, and I can tell by the way he moved. I was like, okay, this person is gonna go down. Like I knew it, and yeah, it did happen. So he was kicked out from like a safe consumption site just because.
And now for a quick PSA brought to you by
Revolution Recovery, helping men recover and become their best selves through support and treatment. They've been there and they understand.
Hey everyone, this is Ryan Bathgate from Kaleidoscope Wednesdays. I wanted to bring a public service announcement to you today about Narcan, or also known as naloxone. These kits have saved so many lives over the years. I can attest for that. Being in the industry for so long, I can tell you since we've had the opioid crisis declared in 2016, it has saved thousands of lives, and I've watched it personally save hundreds of lives. These kits are small, easy to use. You can keep them in your glove box or in a cupboard in your home, and you never know when somebody's going to need them. If you have a hard time finding a Narcan kit in your area, just email us here at ashestooawesomepodcast@gmail.com. Throw Narcan in the subject line, tell us where you are, and we'll do the legwork to find that for you. If you wanted to send me a question for my Kaleidoscope Wednesdays, again, email ashestooawesomepodcast@gmail.com. We will read that question on air, and I'll do my best to answer it in a comprehensive way. That's all I have for now, and we'll go back to the show. Thanks for listening.
Just because he was just like beating himself out and he was just being very, very aggressive and crazy. And he went down, and then I Narcan him, and he got back up and literally doing push-up. I would say like 10 push-ups, and I never see that. I'm like, what are you doing? Bro, the Narcan gonna wear off, okay? Just letting you know. But what frustrates me more is usually when I tell them the Narcan wears off, and then they just run as fast as they can. Just run away. And why are you like this?
So, are they running away from something, or are they running to something else? Like
they're running away from me.
Wow, wow.
Yeah. I don't care if people don't say thank you or whatever. Like,
of course not.
100% of the time. Wait, no. There's only one person who say thank you for saving my life or whatever. But other than that, it's usually just like they're trying to run away, and like, even with like, broken feet or whatever, they would run really fast from you. And I actually never seen anyone shooting again immediately after an OD, but the day after the OD, I remember one person who is so old, heart overdose. Not all overdoses are the same. There are different overdoses, I would say. And he had to be intubated. Didn't respond to the first Narcan. Had to Narcan him twice. The paramedics came, and he's still just so hard. And it's just like, how many times did this person OD'd? I figured out that he usually have a track record of overdosing multiple times. So it's almost at every safe consumption site around that area, he has been kind of flagged as like, okay, he's probably going to overdose when he's doing his thing. Next morning, I saw him shooting up, and it's just, you're very old. Okay, and the last he was already hard. It only gets harder. And
to me, that's a great example of nobody would choose that. Right? Like, you're doing that because you're compelled to, not because you're choosing to. Right? Nobody would choose that.
Oh yeah,
right?
I saw him.
Right. So yeah.
He OD'd twice actually in a row, and we like to say, hey, the Narcan will wear off. Be careful. And then this old gentleman, I don't know how old, but so old, and I don't know if even if he even have like enough meat. It's just he hasn't eaten in a long time, and he's so old, and he just no, I will run away. Like, I will just leave. I want to go home. I'm like, well, you need a walker or something. And he didn't want to use the walker. And he just shoved the walker away and slammed the walker away. It was so frustrating on my part. Why don't you just listen? And so he walked, a block away, and then OD again.
So Narcan wore off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So
So, and then
it's,
the next morning I saw him just finding new veins to inject, and it's just, gosh,
yeah,
why?
that's the demons of addiction, right? You said something there about not needing the thank you, and I totally appreciate what you're saying, right? You know, and something that I picked up on in the very few times that I had Narcaned anybody, maybe this is something that maybe you'll catch now. Nobody ever said thank you, but almost everybody said sorry.
Yes.
And I thought about that, and I thought, oh my God, why are you apologizing to me when you should be thanking me? Not because I need the thank you, but because you should be thankful to be alive. Right now, to me, that right there is the mindset that makes my heart sad. Right,
They're
like you should be
very,
thankful to be alive, not sorry for making somebody save it. Right, and I think there's a big difference to that. You know, so
I would say, yeah, there is a lot of shame. There's a
yeah,
lot of deep shame in overdosing. And it's just like, I always tell them over and over, this is not your fault. It's
yeah,
not your fault that there is a toxic drug or a combination of the nastiest drugs put into together and you didn't
right,
know what you take. You did
yeah,
not know. No one has like, little spectrometer in which they can test what's in the pill. They don't
yeah,
know. That pill could have been anything.
yeah,
So
right, right,
it's not their fault. So yeah, that's what I say. And I remember my best friend OD'd and I saved him. And it's different when you save someone who is not your dear friend versus when someone is really, really close to you.
I've only ever
Um,
saved people close to me, so yeah, I've never
yeah, it's
done a
very,
stranger,
it's
right?
very
Yeah,
hard to see. But I was happy that he made it. Um, and he said sorry so many times, and I was just, why are you sorry? And he's like, well, because it's traumatic to see that. So they
yeah,
really, what I like to tell people is that people who are addicted to drugs, they're not really harming other people, they're harming themselves. They're hurting
right,
themselves.
right.
And
Yeah,
it's,
they're not doing anything to other people; they're doing it to
yeah,
themselves, right? You know,
yeah.
at the end of the day, yeah, yeah, you know.
At the end of the day, they're hurting themselves.
Absolutely, right. So it was actually that little epiphany that I'd had that day when somebody was saying sorry to me again. That now we have this thing we talk about on the show sometimes, turn your sorries into thank yous. So instead
Hmm.
of sorry, I relapse, say thank you for giving me another chance. And the mindset is just amazing what it can do to your life. Every time you want to say sorry to somebody, find the thing to say thank you for instead, and your life will change for the better, right? So it's just
Hmm.
something that we talk about on the show sometimes, right? Actually, I have
Hmm.
an ebook, Turn Your Sorry into Thank You. How do you get to a point where this is what you're doing? Not being, and I mean, the vast majority of people in the industry are people that have suffered an addiction, right? How do you get there?
I suffered a great deal of trauma. I
Okay.
almost got killed. I witnessed someone getting basically like a hit and run twice, and that person was homeless.
Oh, wow.
And I was on the passenger seat, and I was 7 years old.
Oh,
Um,
my God.
yeah, I have a lot of empathy to people that are unhoused. And then I was homeless myself for a year and a half because I'm a first generation immigrant
Hmm.
without, how the law really assumes that you came from a family that totally makes sense. Mom, dad, kids, just totally functional. But the law in Canada doesn't really cover cases where kids are born from dysfunctional family. And in that case, that's me. So
Okay.
I'm an immigrant, first gen immigrant, came here at 14 years old. And yeah, I was so poor, slept with rats, and I know what it's like to have like rats squeaking beside my ear. And
Oh, my. Oh,
I understand what it's like to being stigmatized or, yeah, or when,
stereotyped?
hmm?
Stereotyped or
Yeah,
stigmatized, or all the words.
stereotype
Yeah.
and yeah, like the system didn't really work for you. It's like as if it's just going against you. And I was abused for more than 20 years. I attempted suicide when I was 8 years old.
So I just want to take a quick minute and let you know about a new sponsor of ours, Rosecrest Recovery Services. You might remember Rich Johnson from an episode just recently about interventions, and he was the interventionist, of course, right? So he's come on as a sponsor, and they don't just do interventions. They do family case management, treatment placement. Treatment placement is a free courtesy service, and reaching out is a free and completely confidential. So give them a shout, guys. You can reach them at 615-484-8792 or email at info@rosecrestrecoveryservices.com. Remember, they lead men and women to a life of recovery. Thanks for listening. Now back to the show.
Yeah, I almost got killed multiple times by like my caretaker would just kind of like swing knife when I was kid if she got angry, and it's kind of normal for her to just swing knives around. So
Wow.
yeah, so I grew up like that, and I can see that people in the downtown east side, they also share that trauma, and we kind of we speak the same language. So I understand a lot of the trauma, and I think that's my common denominator with them, is that I've been homeless too.
Yeah.
And I share a lot of terrible traumas.
No kidding.
Yeah, I witnessed my mother being beaten crazy for years. So yeah, it's really rather common to see people who are addicted to drugs to have witnessed such things. So harm reduction is more so. I started back when fent was new, so I was just a few days, and people didn't tolerate that at all, and people died. I would say more than 10 people died, pass away, OD, and it was just scary. I mean, I didn't have naloxone, but I remember I had to pay $50 for a naloxone kit.
Wow.
And I was being asked thoroughly for 20, 30 minutes, or are you using drugs? Do you know someone who used drugs? Is your cousin using drugs? And it's just like, man, I just want to save some people's lives. And I was in high school, literally just a few blocks away from downtown East Side. And so my undergraduate thesis was about harm reduction to mitigate the opioid crisis, and I defended it.
And
So,
what year was this in? What year was this in?
2017, 18?
So right at the beginning of it, then you were like at the forefront of this whole. It's like 16 is when it was declared and
Yeah,
as a crisis. The opioid crisis was in Vancouver, right?
We were like somewhere around there. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
right in the early days of it, then, eh? That's amazing.
Oh yeah, I actually, that's my first thing that just really stuck out to me, just seeing how many people died on the street, and people just don't stop and check on them. And I had Narcan kit. Yeah, I know how to use that, but it cost me $50, and I was a high school kid. And remember, I'm a first generation immigrant. I was poor too.
Yeah, you're sleeping
I
with the
was
rats. You're not.
there
Yeah.
for a scholarship, like 100% scholarship. So $50 is no joke for me. Like, that's a lot of money.
No. Yeah.
But yeah.
So I know in some parts of the United States, Ellen, and keeping in mind that a lot of our listeners are American, right? So,
Okay.
most of the United States, I think Narcan isn't free, like it is here, right? So
Isn't free in the
it's not
United
free. No, in most places you have to pay for it. So, to them, not requiring a subscription is the enlightened thing to do, right? So, it's a very different system down there, and wow, yeah, that part really sucks. It just does, right? So we do it in every commercial or in every episode, and actually we'll do a PSA right now. But in every episode, we do a PSA where we ask people just to carry Narcan. Everybody, whether or not you're going to be around irresponsible opioid use, you should carry Narcan, because you never know when it's going to be around you, right? At the end of the day. One of the things we offer, though, is I don't care where you are in the world. If you're listening to the show and you can't find free Narcan, we'll get some to you. Some way, somehow, I'll find it in your area. If I can't do that, I'll find it in the next jurisdiction over. I'll get you some free goddamn Narcan. If you want to have it, I don't care where you are in the world.
Narcan.
Right? Yes, right. So, right.
Oh, yeah,
I
like
just think everybody should. Yeah.
Yeah, like my place is literally mountains of Narcan because I ship them wherever other students really need it. I introduce Narcan to Indonesian students because people there they they have death penalty for drug users. So obviously there are overdoses. It's just that people don't know that they were overdoses. So yeah, I teach I teach how to administer Narcan through virtual meeting, in person. I don't care. Just freaking, you gotta know how to use this
Just
because
have it, right? Yeah.
people just
So
use, Yeah.
where you are on Lower East Side there, is that the needle kits or the nasal, which is more common?
More common is absolutely this kit with the needle and 3 ampules. Whenever I go into the downtown East Side Vancouver, I always put them loaded. All the needles are loaded. So because I don't have
Smart.
time to open it. And
Right,
the reason
yeah.
why nasal Narcan isn't common is just because it's expensive.
Really, eh? Yeah.
It's expensive.
I found it interesting. I was in Saskatchewan. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, even here it's expensive, and I would use it if and when I see a dog ODing, and I have used the nasal Narcan on a dog that OD'd, but yeah, it's not common. Oh.
No kidding, eh? So in Saskatchewan, where I was for the last 15 years, nasal is by far the more common.
Wow!
Now, yeah, absolutely. In Alberta, where I am now, can't find it. Can't find nasal at all, right? So that's why I was asking where you are. What's the more common one, right? So, yeah, right. I mean, the nasal so much easier to use, but
Oh
you
yeah,
know, yeah, right. Yeah.
yeah. Basically, you
So-
can tell a kid how to use it. So
Yeah. Well, and that's the only one that I've ever personally used. I've been there a lot for the needle, but I have a tremor and I'm a very emotional person. So when it comes to like filling that needle, no, I can't do it. I'm doing CPR. I could do that. It doesn't matter if I have a tremor or how emotional I am, right? I'll do that while you figure that part out. Because I just like, right? I just be having a spaz trying to get that needle filled. But the nasal Narcan I'm able to do, right? So
yeah, I'm pretty desensitized at this point.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
Anymore.
Yeah, I can't even imagine. That's, yeah. That part. So we were talking before the show. We used to do Memorial Mondays every week. We had to back off of them because that was so hard for me to do every single week, immerse myself in the sadness. How do you cope with what you deal with day in and day out?
Yeah, good question. I have a whiteboard or like a little altar, I would say, where I just write the handles, meaning the fake name of people whose OD I reverse in that month.
Okay.
At
Yeah.
one point, I think I got last month. I think I got what 10, 7 or 10, something like that.
In that one
But
month.
always filled up. It always filled up, and I always. Some people, many of these people, they don't have families. So your question was about like how to deal with the loss, right? So
Yeah. How do you process the sadness sometimes? Because, not
I
every
let it-
time's a revival, right? So
I cry it out. That's
Yeah.
it. Even
Yeah.
if I had to cry it out, like in the streets of the downtown East Side, people understand that you just lost somebody that you really care about. Or for instance, they've been client for a while and you just know the person for years, and then all of a sudden this person just didn't make it. It's common. And what I see
Yeah.
from the street is that you really need to be raw with your emotions, that if you need to cry it out, you cry it out. That's how you process things. And personally, I have sort of like a diary where I just write a bunch about these people that I meet, the people that are that I know really well, and some people know what I'm doing, and they basically say, "Hey, when I pass away, because of an OD or intoxication, can you do a celebration of life based on this information that you have? So that is very, very, like, that is an honor. I
No
also
kidding.
run a little interviews with people, and that's basically all about themselves, like a little biography. So I got people who are users but also have a dementia, and then they talk in front of the camera, and they're willing to do that. And so they just talk and talk and talk, and it's like a little biography about themselves. And then they told me that, hey, my dementia is only getting worse. You know, dementia is only getting worse. I will not remember, but
Yeah.
please pass this to everyone, to my kids, and things like that. So,
Wow.
yeah. So I just see it like that. I always honor the memory. I always honor them as a person. Um, and just process the feelings by writing and having like a little altar in which you can just sit there and really just appreciate these people. So
Wow.
that's how I
Wow.
do it.
I really like that. I really like that. We often talk about that part of it, with our psychiatrists who just specialize in addiction, and the therapists and all the people that come on the show. We talk about this stuff quite a bit. I've never heard quite a unique perspective like that. Like yours is unique. I like that, and I like what
Thank
you're doing to manage that for sure. Yeah, yeah. So there's all sorts of things I want to talk to you about. To be honest with you, one of the things I want to touch base on, coerced treatment. And do you know what I mean when I say that, or use that specific term? Mandated treatment, coerced treatment. Here in Alberta, it's becoming a very real thing very quickly. What are your thoughts on it?
Mandatory treatment. Yeah, what is it?
What are your thoughts on it?
It doesn't work. Because no, it doesn't. I mean, I know I will refer people to detox when they are ready, but when they are forced, like I said, they rather be in jail than or die even. Like they really told that over and over to me rather than forced to be in a mandatory recovery. And that put them in a higher risk of overdosing. Actually, I've seen overdoses. Please just don't get me started with how many overdoses there are when people escape the mandatory treatment and they just do their
Yeah.
little score, and it's just poof,
No
done.
tolerance anymore, and down you go.
Pretty
Right. So,
much. All right, you're going to OD 100%. Like,
well, we've done 17 Memorial Mondays. 14 of them were fentanyl overdose, and I think 12 of those were all people that had significant amounts of clean time right before their death. Right.
yeah, yeah,
Once your tolerance is gone, that's
it
it.
doesn't
Right.
work.
You know. Yeah.
So people try to be sober, and I think when people really support the mandatory coerced treatment, they don't really have a faith in the person wanting to be sober.
Yeah.
Honestly, I've seen hundreds of them, probably 1,000 or so, and every single one of them do not enjoy being having a life as an addict. They don't, and
No.
they do want to recover, but it takes relapses, lots of relapses before they can maintain this sobriety. And I would say about 20, 30 times, like just trying and error, trying again, trying again, trying again. But 100% of the people I've seen, they all try to be sober, and they will try again.
Yeah, they will. They will. One argument that's been made: somebody has schizophrenia, and it's bad that they're hurting themselves or they're hurting others.
Yeah.
They'll be committed for that. They'll be, forced into, hey, you can't be out there because you're a danger to yourself and others. If disease is an addiction, and I'm not making this argument. I'm saying an argument that's been made because, like I told you at the beginning of the show, I am Switzerland. Right? I don't, I'm very, very careful not to be. But it's an interesting argument that took me from being super anti-mandated treatment to, oh, maybe there's something there, right? If addiction is a disease and the disease has gotten this person to the point where they're incapable of making good choices for themselves, maybe, I don't know. But then it can't be a cop telling you that. There has to be a panel of doctors. There has to be, because committing somebody is not an easy thing to do for, if that suffering in schizophrenia or whatever. So,
So, yeah, well, my mom is schizophrenic.
okay, great one to pick then. Or a horrible one to pick. I'm not sure. Right. Let's see where this conversation goes.
Yeah. Okay, so, what if they aren't able to make their own decision? Okay, look, you don't have to be a drug user to really make bad decision. You don't have to.
No, you don't. And I guess it comes down to the severity of that decision.
Yeah.
Are you hurting yourself and others in the process? But you see, and there was a psychiatrist that said that to me. She's like, but wait, if somebody has schizophrenia, if somebody has whatever mental illness, we will put them into a safe environment so that we can get them medicated, that we can get them whatever. What is the difference? It's like, yeah, you might have, I don't know. So what it has done is just really raised a question in my mind that, is there some cases where it is the right thing to do?
I would say that treatment, I'm all about treatment, but treatment has to be friendly to those who are non-compliant.
Yes.
Because most of them
that?
are compliant.
And what do you mean there exactly? I'm not sure what you were.
So, for instance, there's a methadone base, but there's no kind of like tapering off or injectable opiate agonist therapy or things like that. But it's basically, we need a more robust system in terms of recovery and being more trauma informed about this. And
trauma informed, I agree with 100%. 100%. The more I learn about it, the more I go, why is this not a huge part of, like, no wonder people relapse, right? We haven't even begun to address the problem. Really, the drugs were the solution. For the problem is the trauma, right?
And I think the forced treatment really just trying so focus into, all right, you're not going to take any score today. Trust me, it's possible to do that.
Yeah.
The challenge is to stay sober. Stay
Absolutely.
sober. It
Absolutely,
doesn't
right.
matter how much they've been forced into a treatment, they will go out. At some point, they will go out. What are they going to do when they're out? Will they be able to maintain that sobriety? And trauma informed and basically giving these patients coping mechanisms to be able to be more, basically to give them coping mechanisms that are healthy and promote mental resiliency is absolutely way more productive than forcing them and then they go out and then they OD.
Right. I think force should be a last resort. I feel like maybe it's got a place, but it's one of many, many tools available to the world, right? So, we have to do a much better job of treating trauma.
Yeah.
Much better job, right? If addiction is the smoke, trauma is the fire, right? So
So there is a learned helplessness, which I like to talk about with these clients. And learned helplessness is basically just like the name says. So something happened to them. Let's say I was abandoned, and so my dad left, and then my mom was schizophrenic, and then I had to take care of her. I had to be abused, and at the same time dealing with schizophrenic mother, and then being poor, and then being homeless. It's sort of just like things over and over beyond your control that is just going against you. And this is something we're not trying to do with these people. We're trying to promote choice. We're trying to promote, hey, you can make choices. Actually, you have to make good choices for yourself. Like, this is a self-empowerment. And what I see from a lot of these clients is that they have learned helplessness. Oh my goodness. I've seen, like, in my conversations about why people start using, they tell me all sorts of stuff. They tell me, my mom introduced me to crack when I was 8 years old. I got that. Oh, my kid was being cremated and I didn't know about that. That was my conversation today. There were crazy, crazy reasons that it's just like life going against them over and over and over and over. And basically the forced treatment is in a way promoting that learned helplessness. Is that, oh no, I don't have any autonomy. No autonomy. They didn't have any
That's a
autonomy
good
when
point. That's a very good point.
they were
Yeah.
having all these adverse experiences in their lives. I didn't have any autonomy when I was abused for 20 years and seeing my mother being abused and beaten up like crazy. I didn't have an autonomy to that. I had learned helplessness as well. But it's really about the healing part of it, is actually starting to make choices that are self-empowering. So I started to go to the gym. I started to eat healthy. I started to compete in weightlifting. I started to make an organization. I started to educate people about trauma. I started to sort of trying to make medicine to be more trauma informed. And why? Because we need a lot of self-empowerment in these people. And forced treatment is really taking the autonomy away from them. They don't need that anymore.
That's a very
That's
good
the
point.
last thing that they need.
That's
yeah.
a very good point on that. Yeah. See, and it'd be so easy. I make a great Switzerland, because if I'll sit here and talk to you for half an hour and I'll be like, yep, she's right. And I'll talk to this guy for half an hour and I'll be like, no, he's got it figured out. So I'm pretty easily swayed, right? I no opinion of my own.
Well, fluid, right?
What it is the more I learn, right? So I become, I was so hard one way, it's so hard this way. But the more I listen, the more I learn, and I'm able to,
Yeah.
definitely open my mind to different ideals and the like, right? So, I do want to take a quick break here for a commercial, and we'll be right back. On August 17th and 18th, the Mission Community Services Society is going to be holding a fundraiser called the 24-Hour Homeless Fundraiser. 10 participants will go unhoused for an immersive experience being homeless as a way to raise awareness and funds for Mission's new community medical mobile unit, the MMU. I talked to Nate at MCSS about this fundraiser, and here's what he had to say.
So we send them out and say, well, go find a job. Well, without ID, how are you going to
Not
get
much you
hired?
can
You
do,
have a
right?
resume,
Yeah.
but you have no way to get your resume right now, so I don't know what you're going to do, but you still got to go look for work. You've got to find an income. Talk to income assistants. Ask them how you get income assistance when you don't have ID.
Yeah.
Right? And so people start to recognize, like, it's not as simple as get a job.
It's really not. I have some resources, I have some family that was helping me out, and the frustration almost broke me when I came in from active addiction.
So that's what the fundraiser is for, is to keep that medical mobile unit on the road. But it's also for people to have a real in-depth look at homelessness and just see how tough that struggle is when you're trying to get out of it.
All right, so we are back from the break, and Atika, I wanted to talk to you about what you're doing with your time these days. You had mentioned that you work, 3 or 4 days a week doing what you're doing now, but what else you got going on?
Yeah, so I'm helping with the safe consumption side, inhalation tent, and then I do research in the alleys. So I basically do lots of surveys and basically get trauma-informed method of communicating to patients that are unhoused and in the shelters, SROs. And so I collaborate with some scholars, some researchers, medical sociologists, and then hopefully I get to collaborate with a nurse as well, or doctors too. And it's kind of like an underground street medicine research. So it's really, really fun. It's very new in medicine, actually, the whole like underground street medicine, which to me kind of baffles me because it's not a new thing to be unhoused. It's not a new thing to
Not even a little
live
bit, right? Yeah.
right? Like it's supposed to exist a long time ago, or in a way of like how to relate and developing this clinical tool for people who are living in the alleys. So yeah, I go to the alleys. I really love the alleys. I love the people there. And then I run a nonprofit. So we are a registered nonprofit, Canadian nonprofit organization called the J Healthcare Initiative,
Okay.
which basically we do alley outreach in times, just making sure that checking on people with our oximeters, and then handing out things that they probably need, like alcohol swabs, or a lot of them need like disinfectant because it's just nasty to deal with rats. So things like that. We hand out gears, sometimes straight pipes and bubbles. Stem stem pipes. So yeah, we do that as well. And then on top of that, we are doing harm reduction talks to students. And if they want to learn about how to administer naloxone, we tell them how to do that. We also do, my organization also do what I call substance sense. So it's basically based on the text that I get from a notification from the health authorities that there has been a toxic drug. And I would do like a little nugget size, bite size information about this drug, what they look like, and so that people understand and kind of be careful about what they're putting in.
Oh, wow. You sure got a lot going on there.
Oh yeah, I do. I mean, on top of like the National Overdose Response Service, which I also do, so it's like I kind of supervise people who are using in person, but also when I come home, sometimes at night, I would also supervise people basically from the distance, from a call or even like a
Okay,
video
I've heard
call.
about this. I think there's a couple different versions of this, but is this a Canadian initiative that you're talking about now?
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
and
a
is
national
this one where they
overdose.
don't have to give their real name? They don't have to give.
Yeah, no, they don't.
They just and they give their own plan. Is that one right, or am I thinking of
They
something
have
else?
their own safety plan. People have their own safety plans.
Okay, what's this? Okay, this one's really important to me. So, what is that called again? Let's say the name again.
National Overdose Response Service.
Okay, so NORS, right?
Yes.
NORS. That's right. That's right.
So
Okay.
it's different than like having like this little machine or this little app where it's where you put a timer and the timer is
to-
usually- yeah, it's like 5 minutes or 10 minutes or something like that. But in when I spot, we call it spotting. And when I spot someone, it's really just life. I really look at them and make sure that they're okay. And I get to, call in the safety plan if, they didn't do well. So I
Okay,
really
okay.
like doing these things. I know people told me that, Atika, this is so crazy what you are doing. Why are you doing this? But I honestly just really enjoy working with the people. So, yeah.
I'm just looking it up so I can have it fresh to put in the show notes and make sure that I don't forget that. So
Yeah.
and because you're looking for volunteers there, aren't they? Always looking for more volunteers.
They're always looking for volunteers. I help people to train on how to spot someone from a distance, just
Okay.
because there are way more overdoses when they're using alone than when they
No
are
doubt.
using, with people. So I always tell people, hey, if you're interested in learning how to spot someone, text me or let me know. My email always has the phone number, and usually the phone number will be forwarded to me or whoever is on shift that time, and then we pick the call and just do it.
Okay.
Yeah, and I always have like a footer under my email. It says like, do not use alone. Let me know if you want me to spot you, and I can do it confidentially. So that's what I tell people as well. And that's
Wow.
what I tell to volunteers as well.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. And your nonprofit again, it is the J Health Initiative.
J Healthcare Initiative.
J Healthcare Initiative. I was close. Okay.
Yeah, you are. You are.
And you sent me those links earlier, so I'll make sure that that's in the show notes. What else we got to make sure is in the show notes, right? God, I'll forget. Anyway, I'll make sure that everything's in there. So that National Overdose Awareness, our response system, I think we're going to do some more for them. I'm trying to get some volunteers going on through the show here.
Yes, please.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we'll talk
They
to them.
are amazing people. They're great people. I never turn my notifications off for them because we just talk about dogs. We're really there for each other and we support each other. So yeah.
That's great. That's great.
Bunch of people.
Okay. Well, we're at the hour mark here, so I guess that brings us to my favorite part of the show. That's the Daily Gratitudes.
Today's Daily Gratitudes are brought to you by Yacha Treatment Centers in Phuket, Thailand. They are a clinic run by clinicians, not a business run by businessmen. And they know that where addiction is the smoke, trauma is the fire. Learn more at yatracenters.com. That's yatracentre.com.
What do you got for us today for some Daily Gratitudes, Atika?
I am so thankful that I was there and present when someone just got out from being sexually trafficked, and she was very vulnerable with me, and I feel honored to have been trusted by her, and I feel very, very good coming home that I just help another woman feeling empowered about herself and just making sure that she knows that it's not her fault. Other than that, I had a fabulous big portion of fries and I got it free. Oh my God. They had this food in the hood. Gosh, it's just great. It's like, whew, it's amazing. So usually they're like restaurants and donut stores that are giving freebies for people who respond to overdoses. So I get a bunch of freebies. I mean, people say like, oh, you're so altruistic. I'm like, you have no idea how many free donuts I get. You don't know. You don't know how many freebies I get. I get 2 freebies. I get, access to like a boxing class for free. And it's just lots and lots of freebie. Oh yeah, it's great. It's great. I got like free meditation retreat, which is something that I'm also thankful for. I'm registered for this amazing meditation retreat in an island for free just because of what I do. So,
wow, right?
I love
That's
it.
nice. That's
and when
nice.
people say, oh, you're so altruistic, I'm like, yeah, okay.
It's not without some reward, though, right? It's good karma. It's good karma.
Yeah.
And well, for the final gratitude, it goes out to you, the listeners. Whatever you guys are doing, please keep doing it. If you're on Spotify, drop a comment in there. If you're watching or listening there, if you're on YouTube, do the comment thing. If you're on Apple, rate and review, please. Anywhere you see the logo, whether on all the social medias, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, we're all over the place. Anytime you see one of those labels, you can stop, drop a comment, ask a question, give us a topic idea, and we're more than happy to do it. Every time you do these things, you're getting me a little bit closer to living my best life. My best life is to make a humble living spreading the message. The message is this. If you are in active addiction right now, today could be the day. Today could be the day that you start that lifelong journey. Reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, call into detox, go to a meeting, do whatever the hell it is you need to do to get that journey started, because it is so much better than the alternative. Mm-hmm. And if you are the loved one of somebody who's suffering in addiction right now, you're just taking the time to listen to our conversation. If you just take 1 more minute out of your day and text that person, let them know they are loved. Use the words,
you are loved.
That little glimmer of hope just might be the thing that brings them back. Boom.
Body's getting cold, my life is running low. okay. I'll find you another day, and I'm not scared to go. It will be okay. I'll find you another way, and I'm not scared to go, because when I die, I'll be happier in another life. I'll be a ladybug soaring through the sky. Please search for me, please find me. So please don't cry when I land on your arms, spread my wings and fly. So please don't cry. Spread my wings and fly. So please